Okay, so far we had published our did. Now the institution needs to create a schema, which is we said the template of the credentials that it needs to issue later. So we will select option number two here, and then we need to identify the title of the schema. So let's say this is a template for a PhD credentials. And then it asks you to input the attributes of this schema. So we said that you need to make it inclusive for private or public data, no problem. This is only a template that it should be empty and it should declare what are the information that a typical PhD diploma issued by this issuer should include. So basically, any diploma should have a first name and last name. So let's say first name, and it asks you for each attribute if this attribute is mandatory when the user requests for this credential, and of course the user needs to specify its name and maybe its ID number or I don't know, university number, so that it or the end user proves that um, he or she is the legitimate person that is required to obtain this credential digitally. So the first name is required for the end user, and then next it keeps asking you for other attributes until you input the word done, and once you are done, then you are done. So we need the last name, and this is also mandatory. We need the grade. This is not mandatory. It should be provided by the institution. The education number, I think this should be mandatory. And what else? Maybe the year when the graduation happened, and let's say it's mandatory, and let's say the faculty from which this PhD was granted, and let's say this is also, no, it's not mandatory. Okay, and then we are done. These are the attributes of our schema, and it asks you for one last time, because once you press yes, then this schema will be sent to the gateway, and then the gateway will forward it to a randomly selected miner. This miner will automatically verify that this schema uses the or has a signature that was actually generated by the private key of this issuer, and thus once it's verified that the signature is correct according to the proof of authority scheme or consensus algorithm, once the signature is correct, then it's added to the chain, specifically to the block which consists of the did of this specific issuer, because we said the blocks are partially immutable, so schemes are going to be added to the block that was confirmed previously. So and then once confirmed, it will be added to the ledger on this local machine, and then it will be forwarded to the neighbors. We have only two miners, so this miner will basically do the same thing that this miner did, and then it will add it to its own local ledger, and then an acknowledgement will be sent back to the gateway, and then the gateway in the background will send the acknowledgement to this institution or issuer, and then the issuer will be able then to generate new credentials or diploma using this specific template or schema. So I will go ahead and press yes now and enter. And you can see that it was super fast. Actually, everything what I said had happened. And you can see here that the new schema was admitted and added. This is the block of the schema. We don't show the block of the did because we already saw that. So this is the schema block. It has the signature of the miner who confirmed it. And this is the body of the block consisting of the transaction, which is the schema. So here we have some identification information about the issuer, and then we have the attributes of the schema. Some are mandatory, like the first name and last name, and some are not mandatory, like the grade. And everything here declared clearly so that later on the user would know which data to provide for the issuer, so that the issuer would easily and swiftly respond with the required credential. Now you can see that here we don't have this much information. We just have a notation here that a new block is received, but the same specific procedure happened here. But the block will be only viewed on the miner that lastly confirmed it. So now we will go ahead and review local chain statistics here, number 2, and then you can see that we have one schema and one DID. Similarly here, since this is a schema block, then also we will have a specified space right here for future revoke blocks saved in this third dimension of this schema. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this screen with number 4 and review local chain statistics, and you can see that we have one schema as well and one DID. Now if we refreshed here, we should have one new notification regarding the schema, and yes, indeed. So we will select sex, and you can see that the schema block and the result is true, meaning that yes, this block was indeed accepted and is currently on chain. So I'm going to refresh this again. I'm going to refresh all the screens and get ready to the next part, which will include issuing a new credential using this schema.